Hey YouTube, hey guys. I'm gonna go over some treatments for your fish, and then once I tell you guys about the different treatments, what I'll do is I'll relate them to some symptoms and which symptoms you can use which of these treatments on. So I'll start. Maybe I'll just give you guys some general information on these treatments. So the one treatment is the heat therapy. Another one is a formalin bath, um, or a malachite green solution treatment, or a salt bath treatment, or any medications containing furazolidone medication, and as well another treatment would be vitamins, food vitamins, and vitamin deficiency related issues. So for the heat treatment, let me explain what that is. The heat treatment is basically you would do that in your tank. Hopefully your tank has clean water. It should have clean water and good air circulation, um, good air in the tank. So what you would do is you would raise the temperature of your tank by 2 degrees Fahrenheit per hour for every hour, um, until you reach to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. That's when you stop raising the temperature, and you keep that temperature up there at 86 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 days. And you want to observe um, observe these fish constantly. Make sure there is no loss of equilibrium on the fish. So if that happens, you would have to stop the treatment immediately. So that's a heat treatment. And my notes here say for odinium, you want to keep it at 91 to 93 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 to 36 hours. That would be the treatment for that. So that's part of the heat treatment, but I would say keep it for everything else. Just keep it at 86 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 days. That's basically the idea. There is also something called a formalin bath. Now, this is done in a pail of water. You can buy the solution at 35 to 40% formalin solution at drugstores. You would look for that there. Now that's effective against skin and gill flukes, and lots of other ectoparasites. So you would add about 2 to 4 milliliters of the formalin solution at 35 to 40% would be the solution ratio, to 10 for every 10 quarts of water. You would place the fish in the pail with the water, with the formula, for about 30 minutes. And again, keep watching your fish. If anything happens, you want to stop the treatment right away. Now with the formalin bath, that chemical, you want to make sure it does not get into your eyes. So keep it away from your skin as well. So not something you want to mess with, especially around children. So the other treatment is a salt bath. That is another common treatment. Let me tell you about that. The salt treatment, you would want to do it in a separate pail as well. So the salt treatment is good for fungus, and fungus infestations, minor infestations with skin and gill flukes. You would apply 1/3 to 1/2 ounce, 10 to 15 grams of table salt per quart of water. Keep fish in the salt solution for 20 minutes, watching them constantly. And it's very important that the initial treatment is followed by 2 more treatments 48 to 72 hours later would be your next second treatment, right? So that would be followed by another one 48 to 72 hours after that. So that's a salt bath treatment. So I'm just going over the different treatments, guys, and then after that I'll tell you what kind of symptoms you would want to apply these or several of these at the same consecutive treating time, right? So another one is using medications that contain malachite green solutions. And you guys would probably see that. That's available in the stores. It's medicine that will turn your water, I think, to a different color. Now these, and I have a video on that, I believe. Now this is good also against fungus disease. And this one you can treat with all the fish in the tank. You can add that. You don't have to put the fish in a pail for that. And you want to replace your water once you've done it. Just follow the instructions on the common medicine bottles. Now another treatment is medications containing furazolidone. Now that treatment can be administered in the tank as well, and many medications are also available. That treats many bacterial infections as well, fin rot, things like that, early stages of ascites. Now both of these, fin rot and ascites or ascites, are usually caused by poor environmental conditions in your tank. So that's the furazolidone treatment. The next one, that's the last one I have here, is basically a hole in the head disease treatment, and that's all I have on that. Is basically you can try and prevent it in the early stages, because it's part of some vitamin and mineral deficiencies in your tank, and then maybe the vitamin deficiencies in the food as well. So let's go to the symptoms. But before I get to that, now this is something I'm reading in my notes here, is sometimes it's better to kill the fish that has an incurable disease. And to kill a fish, you would basically try and do that on its spine, right, with a knife or something like that. Now that is sometimes better than getting all your fish sick with something really bad, right? But let's go back to the treatments first. That's killing a fish would be the ultimate sacrifice, right? To prevent the other from it to spread to the other fish, right? So let's go with the symptoms. So one symptom I have here is white dots. They're about 1/6 of an inch, which is 1.5 millimeters in diameter. That's a fairly decent visible hole on, not a hole, but white dot on the side of your fish, right? On the body of the fish. So for this, you want to use the heat treatment. And if that doesn't work, follow that up with a salt bath. And if that doesn't work, we would follow that up with malachite green solution in the tank. So one of those three, or a combination of the three, should do something, hopefully, for your fish. Let's see. Now, if you have many tiny dots, I believe this could be the ick or something towards that. Many tiny dots on your fish, on the side of your fish. Sometimes it looks like a whitish or yellowish film on the side of the fish. For that, you want to do the only one I have here is the heat therapy treatment. That's the only one I have that could work on that. I don't have anything for doing the other treatments, just the heat treatment for that. Maybe go on to the next one. Just 1 second. Let's see. The next symptom on my list here is violent and frequent swallowing behaviors and motions. Propagating gill covers on your fish. So for that, you want to do the formalin bath, which you would have to go and locate that solution at your drugstore. And if that, you can also try the salt bath with that. So one or two, or the combination, or both, the salt bath and the formalin bath, should help you get rid of those propagating gill covers or frequent swallowing issues that your fish is experiencing. When your fish is panting, I have multiple things you can try. You can try the heat therapy with the salt bath and with the malachite green solution. So those combination of the three, or just the heat treatment alone, or you could do a formalin bath and a salt bath. That would be the other way of doing it. So that's what you would be looking at for panting issues. Bloated body and protruding scales. I've seen this on the fish. That looks extremely painful. For that, you would turn to the medications that contain furazolidine. And that's something you would have to look up to get that. That should be available at the fish stores. Now, that's the only treatment for that disease that I have here. Bulging eyes is another one, and it's exactly the same. You would want to, once again, use medications that contain furazolidine. So that seems to be the medication that can actually remove that. Now, emaciation. Okay, so these next couple, emaciation, that's all related to vitamin deficiencies. Same with darkening of the body of the fish when that fish turns gray and it just gets dark. That's also the same thing. There's some kind of mineral or vitamin deficiencies in your tank or in your food source. Small holes that gradually uh, grow larger in the head region, um, that are often lined or not lined with a white film over top. That's the same issue. Just look into your vitamins and your minerals in your tank. No actual other treatments that I have here that can actually do anything for that. I believe, yeah, there's some natural vitamin combinations you can buy and add to your tank, like in a liquid form, that can actually do a little bit of help as well to raise those vitamins up and minerals. Now, the same thing goes when you see something white or stringy on your fish, and those stringy things on the fish, that looks painful as well. Slimy excrete on the fish. Same thing, it's all caused by vitamin and mineral deficiencies. Now, the most common one here is frayed fins, often shortened fins, or something with a white rim around the fin. Okay, so for that, you want to go back to the medication that contains furazolidon. That's what you want to use for that. That's your best bet. Now, another symptom that your fish is sick is when it rubs against objects in the tank. For that, you can use the combination of the heat therapy with a salt bath and malachite green solution, or just a heat treatment, or another way of doing it would be the formalin bath followed with the salt bath. So those are the common symptoms you would see in the fish. Some of them are really bad. Some of them are not curable. Especially the ones with the big holes on, and they're really tough to heal, but they do heal. I have done it. I use, as a rule, I buy aquarium salt now, which I haven't done before, but I do it now, and I add about a tablespoon every couple days, every week or so, to every tank. It's a good thing. It helps the fish quite a bit. I use medication called Melafix. At any sign of anything going wrong, I use that quite frequently. Well, I shouldn't say frequently. My fish are fairly good, but whenever I do see something, especially when I see it with my guppy fish, I would use that. And I've cured big fish with it, and it seems to do wonders for me. So, I mean, there's a ton of things you can do. Water quality is key. Whenever you start to see any of these symptoms, anything like that, the first thing you want to do, stop your filter, clean your filter, then replace, do a nice water change, and then put your clean filter in and cycle through, and then administer any medications to the fish, right? So that's something you want to do. You always want to keep an eye on your fish constantly. When you start seeing symptoms, you don't want to, if it's getting worse, consult people, talk to pet stores, Google it, I mean, do what you can but keep an eye on your fish. Don't let it spread to other fish, right? Sometimes it's good to have an ice, like isolate your fish, have a side tank, another tank that you have good water that's been running and circulating. I always have a tank somewhere on the side that's like a treatment tank. I would prefer to do my treatments there on the fish that's sick versus on the tank with everybody else. But if a fish was sick in a big tank, and it's one of those that I mentioned that you can try a combination with, the treatment that you don't have to put it in a pail or anything like that. You can isolate the fish, do the treatment in the tank, even though the other fish don't show it yet, just to make sure they didn't get it, because these bacteria are in the water, right? They do. It doesn't take much for another fish to pick it up even a month later. So be mindful, do those water changes, get rid of that bacteria, clean those filters. Don't let that bacteria sit in the filters. Keep your tanks as clean as possible. And the key thing I would say to keep your fish healthy that way is when you buy new fish from the pet store, do not dump in the water that came in with the fish. Just just put in the fish alone. Use your net, grab the fish out of the bag with your net, then put it in your tank. It'll help you to eliminate a lot of the diseases that may be in the water from the fish store. I mean, they go through a lot of fish, right? They sometimes one fish might have a bacteria on it, but it's only been in the fish store for a couple of days before it gets sold, right? So there's a lot of factors that come from the pet store. Even though they keep their waters clean, they do, do their best, but sometimes it's just common sense, right, to remove the water that came from the fish store and not put that in your tank. Another little tip I can give you is when you go to a pet store, and I mentioned this before, I'm going to repeat it again. If you see any signs of disease in the tank and you want a fish out of that tank, I would stay away from that, or at least bring it home and cure it first, something towards that, because you do not need to buy a fish that's definitely been in a diseased tank. And you'll see that if you take a good close look. They can't help it, but there's always going to be one tank that's got something somewhere. You'll run into it in your travels. So do your best. That's the best information I found so far, and some of the common symptoms. And that mineral and vitamin deficiencies in the tanks. Keep an eye on that. There's some natural products. There's some really good things I've actually used for my discus fish, especially, that I've gotten from some of my viewers and some of the comments, and it works wonders too. There's a ton of natural ways to prevent any disease or symptoms before it gets there, right? Like I said, clean your tanks, add some aquarium salt once in a while, clean your filters. And an important thing also is the temperatures in your tank, right? So make sure they're optimal for your fish. And that should get you going. That should get you moving in the right direction. And I'm learning all of this as much as everybody else is, because you can never get rid of bacteria in the water. It's just gonna get to you at some point or another. Another thing you want to do is, if you have a cold and you're doing water changes or hanging around, your fish tank, even if you sneeze, even if you don't have a cold, but you may have some allergies or something like that. If you sneeze, if you have to use a tissue, I would say, do something that stay away from your fish tanks as much as possible when you are at that stage, because every little bacteria you drop in the tank can actually cause something to develop in the tank. I was feeding my fish once, I can tell you that, and it was my guppy tank. I was feeding my fish, and I sneezed, and some of the food dropped into the tank, and it was too late for me to do anything. I didn't have a cold or anything, but I did sneeze for whatever reasons, and a couple of days later, in that particular tank, something happened. So, and I had to cure the fish. So be very careful when you sneeze around your fish tanks, guys. All right. Hopefully this information helps you out in some way, or gives you a clue on what to look for. Good luck with your fish tanks. Hopefully your fish stay safe, and hopefully you cure your fish if you are looking for something to help your sick fish. Thanks very much for watching. Good luck with your fish tanks.